I was triggered by your question. There was one property that we had purchased through foreclosure. The ugliest house on the block, had hired a GC.
The Abundant Wallet.
Thanks for making the time to join me in the podcast. I appreciate it. So let's see. So if you want, why don't you start with maybe a little background on you of like how did you get into real estate?
So I've got a lot of background, but that page in the book, every opportunity I get, I give credit to my mother-in-law. My husband and I have been married this year. It'll be 42 years.
Oh, congrats.
And, yeah, thank you. It wasn't until I met him that I was exposed to real estate as an investment. I grew up with both parents. We always typically owned our primary home. However, it wasn't until I met my husband that I was introduced to real estate as an investment, as a rental. When I met him, he was just kind of, muddling through rehabbing a triplex for his mom. Yeah, his mom invested in real estate. Never had an opportunity to have a conversation with her about how she got into it, but fast forward, when I met him, so date night was at the property, fast forward, we got married, bought our primary home. It took his mom 10 years. I call it the motherly nudge of nudging us to invest in real estate.
Wow.
During that decade, we were partying, creating just, deep holes of debt, wasn't focused on building wealth. And after 10 years, she called and said, listen, I've got some property opportunities and I want you all to buy one. We said, Mom, we don't have the money. She revealed to my husband, and my mother-in-law was a college educated factory sewer in Philadelphia, a college educated factory sewer. Unfortunately, back in, the 50s, the 60s, the United States was a manufacturing hub, and she worked in a factory, couldn't get a job with a college degree. Anyway, she revealed that she had saved $14,000 for my husband's inheritance, unbeknownst to him, and that she would give it to us to buy this investment property.
Okay. That
was in 1996. And it wasn't on a silver spoon. It was on hard work from a college-educated factory sewer that we were gifted with $14,000, which the property cost $14,000, and we purchased our first investment property. So that's how we got into investing in real estate.
That's incredible. So even in the 90s, I'm thinking 14,000, even by those standards, is still not a great amount to buy a property. Was that just like the 15 or 20% or even the 3.5%? No, that was the total cost. It was two properties side by side. Wow. It was a liquidation by a widow that somehow my mother-in-law, came across. And basically the widow's husband was an investor, and the widow would sell properties off as she needed cash. And so no, the total cost for the property was $14,000. It was inhabited. It had one tenant. The condition of the property was horrible, but that was the cost. That was the full cost. Fast forward, we did cash for keys, invited the tenant to move because the property was so uninhabitable, and invested probably about 40 grand, 50 grand at the most for a full gut rehab back in 96. It seems like you found a gem. Even if it was in horrible condition, you can't find a distressed property for that little. That's incredible.
Well, now you're talking 2026. Back in the 90s, yes, you could. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Really depending on your locale, your geography. There was cities, I have to speak urban. I'm familiar more with urban cities.
Yeah.
Municipalities were enticing development. They were selling houses for $1 in Philadelphia back in the 70s. Yeah, that was like a trend. You could buy $1 house. Yeah.
I hear rumors you can buy something like that in Italy now, but it's a totally different economy. So, but no, that's incredible. Cool. So you and your husband were not just capital raising, but you were doing the actual work, not all of the operations.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes. It's my journey with my husband, who's been my friend for 50 years, married for 42, slightly into 50. But anyway, it's been a growth process. I'll say it like that, Larry. My
Okay.
husband is a self-taught handyman. He taught himself all the crafts. When I met him, he was rehabbing his mom's triplex on the
Yeah.
plumbing, the carpentry, with a thick encyclopedia of all of the trades, teaching himself. Now you've got
Wow.
YouTube and TikTok, right? But back in the 90s, we had encyclopedias back then. I don't know how old you
Yes.
are. I'm a
Uh,
woman of a certain age, but
no, no, I'm next year I will be 50. So I remember Encyclopedia Britannica. My parents had the same thing. So I was born in the late 70s. So I'm an 80s and 90s kid for sure.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So to your question, we did everything. It took me a few decades to get my husband's hands off of our projects because he can literally build a house from the ground up, but we don't want that
Yeah.
because we need the assets to get to market.
Exactly. Like once
Yeah,
you know the work, you can manage the work and automate using the systems. And then it's just like, all right, I don't have to trade time for money anymore. Nice.
that's what I convinced him of, in that we can hire a GC and you can be the project manager.
Yes. Yeah.
That accelerated our portfolio growth.
And was it tough at first to kind of envision for him, or was like once he got it, was he just like, okay, I can see the light, or was it a little bit tough?
Sorry, I'm not a poker player, Larry. Like, as you're asking that question, my facial expressions are all over the place. You open by saying you and your girlfriend were moving to Nashville. Well, in relationships, two different mindsets, two different upbringings, two different opinions, and no, it was hard as hell. It was hard as hell
Yeah.
to unclutch his hands to the actual projects.
Yeah.
I mean, there were literal arguments. There was, the silent treatment. I don't talk to you for a couple of days because we need to calm this down. But
Wow.
yeah, over the years, he finally came around.
Yeah, because like especially if you're Gen X or even a boomer, like we were taught from a young age that you'll never have enough and scarcity is around. So I can imagine like you're taking my livelihood. Maybe that's the first thought, or maybe it was a whole trust factor. Is like, this is what I do, but like you're trying to help him elevate, and maybe he's just like, this is my thing.
Well, for him, full disclosure, for him, and we have benefited from his multiple skills over the decades and building our portfolio. For him, it was, I can do it cheaper. I can do it less expensive.
Okay.
Right? I can do it less expensive. That mindset doesn't always come out in the wash and the net, because if it takes you, and we were working on 9 to 5s.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, we were working on 9 to 5s. So, if you can only do it after working on the weekends, we're talking the cost of time here versus hiring a GC to come in and knock it out in 3 months, where it's going to take you a year working weekends, right? Then that became the real, chess piece on the board with him. Like, come on, like we really need to get these projects to the market quicker with your oversight as a benefit, but not hands-on.
Yeah. But like, what better manager who's done all the work and to have that oversight, and maybe he could have, I'm sure he could have done it better, but like to get some of that freedom of time and to scale, you had to take that path. No, that's good stuff. What were some of the maybe early wins that made you realize like, this is awesome, and we want to do another one, we want to keep doing this?
Early win was the mindset shift and the realization that we could build a money machine.
Okay.
I'm not a TV person. I'm more of a bookworm and a geek.
Yep.
And I was watching, I
Same.
think it was Back to the Future. Back to the Future was on last night.
Okay.
Back to the Future, right? And so knowing that we could create a money machine through rental properties was an early success around being strategic and intentional. Understanding that we could create a money machine through growing a portfolio of rental properties was just mind blowing. And it was the spark. It was the spark it was the match that lit the flame, the flicker, and turned into a flame.
Yeah, no, that's great. So what did you see early on? Did you see, and maybe it wasn't from day one, but maybe after, your first project was done, did you see the cash flow? I'm sure you wanted to look at equity plays for the big payout eventually, but what kind of things were you kind of looking at for your first couple properties?
Well, we were motivated by three things, Larry.
Okay.
After that first project. And number one was the fact that, and this was over time, but it was during that period of time, I had been laid off twice from my corporate job.
Wow.
My husband had been laid off once, and it's not a good feeling when you're putting your all in and you go in and they say it's not personal, it's business, but we no longer need you.
Yeah.
So the motivating factor for us to really propel and scale was what happens if we get laid off again? There's no cash flow. Okay. And secondly, motivating our children. We have 3 grown men, but they were small at the time, to pursue higher education. That sounds nice, but how are we going to pay for it? And number 3, the what if question. If we get to retirement and Social Security is not there, what the heck are we going to do? Those 3 factors were our motivation to work our 9 to 5s from 6 until midnight and on the weekends, canceling Christmas, sacrificing to pour into buying assets and building our own money machine, like that time machine.
Yeah, that's interesting because you hit on something really good there, because I know there's a lot of different schools of thought. So I myself still have my 9 to 5, but I've kind of only been doing this venture for like a handful of years, but it's the golden handcuffs, right? Obviously, well, I got laid off too during like Y2K. I was laid off. I'm in tech. I'm a data engineer, and I was laid off. I couldn't get a job for over a year back in my industry, and it was horrible. But I eventually got something, and that helped me with my mindset that nothing is promised. And I feel like the way you guys went about it is like you said, you don't know if you're going to get laid off again. So you had to make something that worked, that wasn't dependent on government or big business or any of that. It was all in-house.
Oh, let me insert part of our strategy.
Okay. Yeah.
Because this is what you just talked about, triggered and highlighting for me one of my signature talks, right? Which is mind, money, and the millionaire mindset. And I talk about 3 things. Number 1, leverage, strategy, and consistency. I used to say I fired my 9 to 5, but I pivoted from my 9 to 5. During COVID, I fired my 9 to 5. During COVID, on Zoom with the CEO, I had a wonderful 23-year career working for state government, specifically the New Jersey Redevelopment Authority. So my day job was educating, financing, underwriting large-scale redevelopment projects in urban cities across the state of New Jersey. That was the macro.
Okay.
Simultaneously, we were building our micro business.
Yep.
Right? Taking the skills and the knowledge from my 9 to 5, pouring them into our micro real estate business, right? So when I talk about it in that context, I'm talking about leverage. I'm not suggesting to audience that I speak to quit your 9 to 5. Do not do that. Leverage your 9 to 5. Let it be your silent partner.
Yes.
That finances your financial strategy. That's what we did for 3.5 decades. Up until 2020, I fired my 9 to 5 on Zoom with the CEO with 23 years with state government. If anybody knows about government careers, the goalpost is 25 years. I said 23 years, I'm out. Why? Because our personal money machine had replaced my salary.
Yeah.
And fortunately, my husband was still working. So everybody's concern is that health coverage, right? Healthcare. So I was able to leave the 2 years on the table, be under his healthcare, and this will be his 3rd year that he retired.
Wow.
We're baby boomers. 2020, my 60th birthday gift to myself was freedom from my 9 to 5.
Wow.
So this year will be 6 years that I'm able to move about the cabin at my own pace. My husband as well. We're world travelers. And I started a second business once I retired in 2020, aside from our real estate company.
Okay, that's awesome. So it's like I say, when you have that freedom and when you have the financials there, you get to work on what you like to do, not what you're forced to do. So yeah, what is that second business?
So if you can see the logos behind me, Babb Properties is our real estate company. that we've been growing for decades. That's where our portfolio sits. And Legacy Real Estate Consulting, I started in 2020. It's our education arm. That's what I call it. We have been tremendously successful in property managing our own portfolio, small but mighty portfolio.
Okay.
I say that for three reasons. Number one, we brought right location at the right time for the right price. We brought in the right location, which is the market, at the right time for the right price. And we started buying and self-managing and educating ourselves about how to manage, how to operate our rentals like a business. And, you know, we are triple L's. We are lifelong learners. We've been very fortunate and blessed to create this money machine and are committed to sharing that with whoever is willing to engage us, aspiring and existing investors in the buy and hold space. Why are we committed? Because we've been successful in doing it. We self-manage, as I mentioned. We only have awesome tenants. We have 40 plus years of no evictions. And we have a philosophy and a school of thought that we follow. We have systems. If your audience visits my website at legacyrec.net, you will see on our shopping page all of our documents. So at least I have a digital document bundle. There is a logo here that says landlord docs.
I see. Yep. Yeah.
So in 2020, I formulated and created many of our document systems digitally and made them available. So someone who wants to self-manage doesn't have to go to Staples to buy a lease. We have a 17-page legally reviewed lease in that document bundle of 17 documents, from applications to addendums, lead paint, affidavits, whatever you need to operate your property. And I teach and I coach. I do one-on-one coaching and mentoring for aspiring and existing investors. I do live workshops. I'm committed and passionate to pour from our full cup. Our cup is full. There's no sense in me taking it with me.
Yeah. No.
So teaching, coaching, and speaking to audiences, that's my jam. It's not what my husband does. He's on the tennis court right now. But I really get a kick out of pouring into audience who want to be proficient in property management and wealth building. And that's what I spend my time doing other than traveling.
No, that's fantastic. You're setting up the next generation who want to get there, and you have a wealth of knowledge, and you're coaching, you're teaching, you're educating, and no, that's fantastic.
And also being an example. We are living an example, and I'm committed to being the example of the other side of the coin of owning rental properties. There are so many horror stories out there. So many horror stories out there. So many such that it deters individuals from investing in brick and mortar real estate. It encourages investors who own real estate to leave their properties vacant because they've had a tenant from hell. You know, there's so many scars and traumas out there. We want to be the other side of the coin that says, no, when our tenants move out, which I have a move out walkthrough on Sunday, our properties aren't trashed. They're not destroyed because of the systems that we use on the front end. And even our 8 steps to screening a rental applicant. There's a methodology that we use, and it really delivers for us.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like there's a lot of stigma that comes around where when people want to invest, there's a lot of emotion and don't really look at it as a business. And it's just like you have to take the emotion out of it. If the numbers don't work, then that's not the deal for you. You also mentioned, I mean, I think everyone has that nightmare story. Going even early on, do you have anything that you would say was challenging or maybe a drawback? Not obviously not from your system or strategy, but something, maybe it was like a GC that was charging you extra, or maybe it was just the project was scoped incorrectly because of some of the subs that you hired, but anything you can think of that was just a little bit challenging and, you may not want to go through again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's one that comes to, I was triggered by your question. There was one property that we had purchased through foreclosure. The ugliest house on the block, had hired a GC. He subbed it out to a subcontractor. So we ripped off the entire facade of the building.
Okay.
Right. And so that the sub was there to put a whole new brick front on the facade, had his scaffolding up, and it had ripped it off, put the scaffolding up, and disappeared like for days, just not answering the phone, just ghosted us. And my partner, who's my husband, as I mentioned earlier, he was so frustrated. He disassembled. So in his mind, it was like, so a craftsman needs his tools. For a bricklayer, his scaffolding is his main tool. My husband, like nobody, is years ago, so he can't be charged anyway. He dismantled the scaffolding and took it to one of our other properties and was just so frustrated. I don't know, that contractor held up our project for probably, a good half a month before he reappeared, apologized, and et cetera, et cetera. So, when you are on a timeline, when you are, managing finances, and a contractor ghosts you, disappears, no communication, it is really, it throws everything off. And it also, damages the relationship, the level of trust and confidence that we have between us. So yeah, that was just one of a few, not many, but that was one.
No, it's things that are unpredictable, out of your hands. But no, it's a good point. It's even a day or 2 days, it's just like if someone goes to you, it's like like we're on a project, time is money, and we have to get this and we want it right. But it also kind of put in your head is, all right, like post-mortem, like how do we vet this person? And you could have had the best vetting system, but now there's a trust factor in there. Is like, all right, the next person that we get, we have to do this, and this, or can we check his references? Or you could have done all the right things, and he just, he is just, maybe that was his personality. He's just like, okay, yeah, I'll get back to him sometime. It's like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah. And if I could expand on that observation you just made, in light of our landlord docs 30 digital property management system that we have on our website, our lease is 17 pages for a reason.
Yes.
Because as we traveled this journey of property management, you encounter, a variety of situations. How do you combat that situation in the future? You create a clause in the lease that speaks to it.
Yes. Yeah. There's you have a very vast and deep history, and I'm sure that shows up in a lot of your systems and documentation. So that's good. Nice. Awesome. So maybe talk to me about a little bit about maybe what your current strategy is today. I know you're close to the Philadelphia area. Like, do you do buy and hold? Do you run syndications? Is it more residential, commercial? Are there certain markets that you like and dislike?
Sure. We are, number one, we're baby boomers. I mentioned my age earlier.
Yep.
We started investing back in the 90s for the reasons that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And our business model is acquisition, full gut, rent, hold, and for the wealth building, right? We don't do flips. All of our portfolio is residential.
Okay.
In
Nice.
the Philadelphia market. For your audience, if you're not familiar with Philadelphia, the majority of our portfolio is in the first ring neighborhood of Center City.
Okay.
Which is where my husband grew up, which is where we saw the gentrification happening back in the 90s, which motivated us to start buying. So that's our market. We, as I mentioned, have been at this since the 90s. I liken it to a garden. We started planting seeds along the way for the last 35 years. And those seeds are properties that we've been buying, totally renovating, managing, watering, weeding, and nurturing. We are now walking in our victory garden. The shrubs are fully mature. They're blooming. They're giving us great, beauty in the revenue. So that's where we are. We haven't acquired anything probably since 2015. So we have basically a well-oiled machine. Total renovations when we acquired those properties. I think it was around COVID. It was probably 21 or 2. We went through the portfolio and did a second set of upgrades, hardwood floors on the second floor, granite, stainless steel. So our portfolio is very mature in very, gentrified neighborhoods. Fortunately, my husband grew up there, so we were fortunate to be able to ride the wave of gentrification through by investing and leveraging our 9 to 5s, positioning ourselves financially to take advantage and to acquire systematically. And our plan worked. Our plan worked. From 30 years ago, our 3 Ys materialized, creating our own money machine, affording, to send our children to college, and having revenue for when we retired.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I love maybe a strategy that maybe is overlooked and something that I think I've even overlooked. I feel like it's better in the long run or even the short time to go deep instead of wide. So what I mean by that is all of the assets that you own, you may have 0 to no partnerships. Like you and your husband own 100% of what's in there. So when I say you go deep, you're doing everything yourself, and you're going on to the next one and doing the same. You're not going wide and buying all these and getting a little bit of cash flow because you're having to like split hairs or split it. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter how much it's worth. It matters what your percentage of ownership is. And that's, but I like that. And I'm seeing a lot of people do that. And, I myself am not an operator, but I've been in a mastermind. So I definitely do my due diligence for syndicators, but at the same time, with the time I do have, I want to get into a really good syndication that gives you that nice equity multiple and cash. But again, when you split with 10 partners, you're getting a very limited cash flow, and whenever you sell, that's kind of when the big money hits. But I really like your strategy. And I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to just kind of, put a fine point on what you were saying. We are not adverse to diversification. I did an in-person 4-hour workshop in the winter of last year on wealth building and landlording like a pro. The first hour I spent totally on identifying 29 different ways to invest in real estate. The spoke of the wheel that we're in is just one, right? Yeah. Everybody is not cut out to be, on-hand operators, operators, right? So I talk and I teach and I promote education to investigate those other 28 ways. We're talking EFTs, we're talking syndications, we're talking REITs, we're talking, raw land. There's so many, we're talking storage facilities. There's so many different ways to invest in real estate that are available to you. Yeah. I think it's important for you to get in where you fit in. Do your research, do your homework, get into a mastermind.
Yes.
And test the waters. But leverage, that's my message. Leverage that 9 to 5. I've been on podcasts with young people in particular. Y'all want to quit my job and be an investor. I want to quit my job and be an entrepreneur. I'm like, oh, whoa, wait, slow down. No, don't do that.
No.
From a real
What's your
estate
plan?
Perspective, lenders want to see, stable income, good credit. Like so my business banker, she titles herself, well, her colleagues call her the dream killer. When entrepreneurs come in, they want a loan on an idea and a dream, and she kills it. Like, no, we need collateral, we need revenues. How are you going to pay us back?
Yeah, how are you going to back it? Do you have the salary, the consistent income to guarantee this? Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is like people who maybe don't want to be operators or landlords, for capital raising or whatever. We need people with good credit. We need guarantors. So everyone has a job. And I don't think you can be everything to everybody. I'm not saying like stay in your lane, but like, as you grow and learn and you may want to broaden your horizons and do different things, but at the same time, don't take on too much. Like, I'm sure you've heard your net worth. Your network is your net worth. So it's just it's also leveraging your relationships and being resourceful. But that I'm actually interested in. I definitely want to go see those 29 ways because hey, there could be an easier way to do what I'm doing, and much more lucrative than the way I'm doing it. So yeah, I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, so anyone can go to my website again at legacyrec.net. On my shopping page, that 4-hour in-person training that I did is available on replay, totally edited, and you can partake in that information.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, at the end, or once this is over, I'm going to send you an email. I'm going to get all your socials, all your stuff, so we can tag you and your website and all of your references. So, the audience has everything to check your resources out. So let's go with maybe not now, because you said that you haven't acquired anything, but maybe if your sons are in the business, or people that you coach and teach, how do people, you think, typically fund deals, or how do you teach them to fund deals? In terms of deploying capital across deals, do you teach, or have you? I kind of know how maybe you and your husband did it, leveraging the 9 to 5, which is awesome, because don't spend your money on stuff that's here today, gone tomorrow. Like, definitely look at, investable assets. But, do you prefer using like your own capital, leveraging, or is it a mix, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I believe that, buying or investing in real estate in 2026, depending on where you are in the spectrum. For example, if you are a first-time home buyer, right? We have 2 young mentees right now, 20 and 21, who
Wow.
are hearing us loud and clear with the message. If I knew in 1984 what I know now, we would not have purchased a single family home.
Yeah.
If I knew in 1984 when we bought our primary home, if I knew what I know now, then we wouldn't have bought a single family home. So what I'm teaching my mentees is buy a multi-unit.
Yes.
You're in the space, you're in the mindset that you want to get out of your parents' home, number one. You're willing to live in an apartment. Okay, fine. You got to save first, last, and 1 month security. Anyway, you've got a lump sum of money. Redirect those resources and consider buying a multi-unit.
Yeah.
Live in one unit. Yeah, live in one unit. If it's a duplex, triplex, if you can get a quad, live in one unit and begin your money machine with the other units. You've got tenants, you've got rent coming in. They can minimize your responsibility with paying that mortgage, and it becomes the first brick in the foundation of your portfolio. Leverage the equity over time from that first multifamily asset to then buy the next property.
Yeah, just rinse and repeat. That's your system, right?
Rinse and
That's your
repeat.
money machine.
That's your money machine. And we just had a mentee, 21, just bought her first duplex.
Awesome. So she's living mortgage free. You start with 3 or 4 units. You're not only living mortgage free, but you're having some cash flow. Don't squander that cash flow. Put it to good use. Make your money make you more money. So it's passive. You're sleeping, you're making money, right?
Yeah, and approach it like a business though. It's so much. It has to be complemented with the business mindset, with the entrepreneur mindset. This is not a side hustle. This is not a home that I bought and I just let people live. No. Let's set up the business structure. Let's get the education and knowledge to operate it like a business so that you can maximize, decreasing your taxable income. Like, we got to operate this thing like a business. And fortunately, this mentee has heard us loud and clear. And again, first time home buyer, there's so many programs out there.
Yeah.
There's so many programs to help you with that down payment that you got to bring minimal to the table with first time home buying program.
Down payment assistance. And even in some markets, you could be a first home buyer if you haven't bought something in like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, wait, I bought a house. When was it? Oh,
yeah.
You're still a first time home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so many
incredible
programs out there. And let's not even talk about the veterans. I have a son who's a veteran, and I was on a mastermind, a veterans mastermind, talking about the benefits that they have with the VA loans. Like, they can buy up to a quad.
Wow. Yeah.
With the VA loan with practically no money down.
That's awesome. I know multifamily is huge. We're in certain parts of where you are. Here in Florida, not so much, but there are industrial or other suburbs that do have them. So whether it's Winter Park, Lakeland, I mean, it makes so much sense. Robert Kiyosaki said, if it's not making you money, it's costing you money. So it's a liability. So make it make money for you.
I was at a elementary school's career day last week or 2 weeks ago, talking to third through fifth graders about the definition of assets and liabilities.
I love it. Yes, that's great. I mean, at that level, I feel like, money management and money itself is not taboo anymore. And to start at third grade, what are you, about 8? I mean, that's incredible. No.
And I felt my work was done at the end when the professionals were, giving closing remarks, and the audience of students were asked, does anybody know what they want to be? And one young man that was in my subgroup, he said, I want to be a real estate investor. I mean, because we crunched the numbers in our little conversation.
I love it.
I pointed to him from the stage and I said, you do that.
Yeah. And that's how it starts. You don't have to have a mass following. It starts with one. That's great. Mm-hmm. I love it. Let's see. Have you looked, or have you, taught some of your mentees at ways to recycle or reuse, capital more efficiently between deals? So maybe they have a container of capital, and it's maybe, instead of it sitting in a 401k or an IRA or a checking or savings account where you're earning next to nothing, maybe it's in more of a higher yield financial vehicle, to where, based on certain tax codes, maybe you're really privatizing your banking function, and you're using that capital for a deal that's making you money. But at the same time, just because of the guidelines behind it, it's also creating dividends on the back end for you. Mm-hmm. Have you done something like that? Or
we certainly talk around it. I profess not to be. I'm not a realtor. I'm not a broker. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a financial advisor. However, I am a triple L, which is a lifelong learner. There is so much information out there about how to use your 401k to invest in real estate through a third party. Of course, there's equity investments, being an equity investor in a project, syndications, high yield interest accounts. Do not just sit it in a typical checking account where they're using your money to make money. So it's about financial education consistently. And, even on the back end of liquidating assets, using a 1031 exchange, considering how to minimize it. So we can, dive into, all of those conversations at a high level.
Yeah, sure. That's great. I feel like creating creative financing, if you're not getting what you thought you might, there might be ways to improve that. So,
and if I can go back to mindset again and education, I am passionate about merely introducing these concepts to audiences. I don't have a college degree, full disclosure. I matriculated to many colleges over my journey. But what I know I wasn't taught at a young level was finances.
Yeah.
Just taxation. I'm teaching young audiences about taxation between being a W-2 and an entrepreneur, and how it minimizes your taxable income. Like, basic financial information is not taught in high schools.
No. I mean, yeah.
Just simply taxation. Okay, when you're in high school, you want a job. Let's talk about, the fast food, restaurants you want to work at, fine. And in your mind, you're making $200 a week. Do you understand the taxation that gets you to the net of that 200, where you're only taking home, 150? Nobody's explaining that. From a basic level of FICA and Social Security and all these taxes. And again, the comparison between a W-2 and an entrepreneur with the, products and services that you may use that net income to buy, that can then minimize your taxation even more as an entrepreneur versus just a consumer.
Yeah. Real estate is that, basically, Swiss Army knife. It has many benefits. You don't just use it for one. So, I mean, tax deduction is huge, but no, that's true. I even met a colleague who, going back to the IRS code, he helps people, just because when you first start a job, you elect to do your taxes a certain way. He helps people get out of that because it's just an election and you don't have to do that. You don't have to pay taxes. Yeah, but that, you're definitely going in the weeds there, but there are so many different ways and different options to.
Where do we learn that though, Larry? No, not, no, when, not, it's not where do we learn it? Where are we taught that?
Yeah, it's
as we get into the world of adulting and having to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's by accident, sometimes it's someone who has mastered it, like yourself, and it's like you have to be a lifetime learner because if you're what was that, Tony Robbins, if you're not growing, you're dying. So it's like keep expanding your mind and keep getting better. No, that's great. That's great. I myself am a what they call in like IBC, which is infinite banking. So I help people get into financial vehicles to privatize their banking function. I did it at first as a client. I was skeptical. I saw the dividends that I was making instead of leaving my capital or my money in even a high yield savings, which is now like 3.2 on average. You're getting far more than that, and it's so you can leverage and you utilize these as for your big purchases in life. You don't have to borrow from big banks and hard money lenders, and like you said, leverage your 9 to 5, leverage any windfalls that you have. Don't just it's not about accumulation. It's what's going to be paying you while you're sleeping. So no, I think that's good. Cool. So I appreciate you sticking with me for the time being. Let me ask you one last question, and we can wrap up. What do you think your goals are over like the next 2 to 3 years in terms of growth or deals or coaching or your businesses? What do you want to kind of leave the audience with, and where do you want to kind of go from here?
On the real estate side, it's definitely the goal is definitely continuing to oil the well-oiled machine.
Yes.
And bringing on new partners, i.e. tenants. On the legacy real estate consulting side, my goal is to get in front of as many audiences as possible, get booked at colleges, corporations, and nonprofit to, pour from my full cup of experience around wealth building and financial literacy. And as a person, I am not a runner, but I am a walker. So that means I walk and I jog. I'm a woman of a certain age, so I have to be intentional about staying healthy. And my life goal in that realm is to run in all 50 states and on all the continents. And to date, I've ran 43 states and 4 continents and 6 islands. So I will continue to work towards obtaining that goal as well.
I love that. Is that kind of like a 5K or?
I do between 5Ks and half marathons.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, great. Well, yeah, again, I appreciate your time, wealth of knowledge. I wish I had like a whole day with you because I can learn so much. But where can people find you?
Sure. On the real estate coaching and training side, legacyrec.net is my website. And on the public speaking to audiences around financial literacy, my name, Kim Avant, A-V as in Victor, ANTBABB.com, KimAvant-Babb.com.
Awesome. And yeah, well, again, after this, I'll shoot you an over to email. We'll have that in the credits and the show notes, and people will be able to reach out to you. But again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.